Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. The Season 3 Reloaded meta update obviously impacted a lot of the top weapons. We saw some pretty decent nerfs to some of the top meta weapons, some buffs to some other weapons to make them a bit more competitive. And with that, today I wanted to break down the new top 10 best loadouts you want to be jumping in with post Season 3 Reloaded. So first things first, perks and equipment really just staying the same for me. Smokes and knives have been my go-to. Even if I'm playing the big map, oftentimes I'm still running the knives just for the instant finishes. Semtex's frags are also a great alternative. Then for perks, Mountaineer, Double Time, Tempered, and Flex is still my go-to. I prefer to have a medic vest in game so I can get those quick reses, and so this complements that nicely as well. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. These are still super consistent across the board. But focusing purely on weapons for the remainder of the video, this first loadout is one that I was running a lot last season, and it's still very viable this season. The BP50, which really wasn't adjusted in any major way, and the HRM9, which was actually slightly nerfed, but it's still a very competitive SMG across the board. This BP50 setup with the iron sight is so much fun to use in my opinion. Running the Castus break, this initially helps out with that horizontal control and some firing aim stability, just makes it a lot more predictable across the board. Lore 9 heavy barrel, better range, velocity control, and firing aim stability as well. So again, making it easier, making it more efficient in the mid to long range. I use the DR6 hand stop, even though this is my primary and I fight out at 50, 60, 70 meters, because it's so easy to use. You can get these extra mobility benefits with your movement, your strafe, your ADS, your sprint to fire, and also have a really good, viable weapon in the mid range as well. 45 round extended mag, very basic there. Then I go for the Moat 40 stock, protecting your castle, helping out with some control, some mobility, doing a little bit of everything here, and it's very, very reliable. So BP50, probably my choice for the best rifle in the game at the moment. It's feeling really good. Pair this with the HMR9, like I said, it was nerfed, but it's still a really competitive SMG, and really the only difference now is this season I'm absolutely swapping out a barrel for high grain. I want to extend this range out a little bit more, get that fastest TTK or that effective damage range out as best I can, so adding this on will make that a little bit more lethal there. Other than that, I'm still running the ZEM 35 compensator on most of my subs, honestly. Minimal cons to your velocity and your ADS speed, but good control benefits with firing aim stability, so makes it really easy to use. I also go for DR6 hand stop here yet again, the 50 round extended mag. Then the light stock is going to be on there too, better strafe, movement speed, ADS speed. So this thing's snappy, it's aggressive, it's just not going to be the absolute dominant #1 SMG anymore. Loadout number 2, oh man, this is a fun one. I've been running this a lot since the update. SVA 545 paired with the Striker 9. This could have an argument as being that new #1 SMG because of the changes that were made to the HRM. And the SVA, this thing is frying in the rifle category right now. Have made some adjustments to this setup too, because I'm all in on the hyperburst semi-auto mode. It's going to be super reliable and really easy to use. Even though it is semi-auto, because it's hyperburst, it's easy to spam and it's got no recoil. So the Spirit Fire Suppressor will extend that range and velocity out some. Precision Barrel is going to do more of the same, plus some added idle sway is always convenient when you're spamming a gun. High grain rounds have actually switched over to instead of an underbarrel, because we don't really need control in hyperburst mode. This is going to allow you to get even better range and velocity, obviously. 60 round extended mag, very basic there. Then the 2.5 times Eagle Eye optic, my choice for my mid to long range guns. If there's a different optic that you prefer more, always go ahead and run that. But yeah, this thing is so easy and so consistent right now. And this Striker setup, this one is my preferred max mobility, max TTK loadout. You can adjust this as you need though for control. I do use M35 compensator and DR6 hand stop on here. Also running high grain here too instead of a barrel or anything. I like extending out that effective damage range some. 50 round extended mag, and then just for max movement, I enjoy using no stock. This does add in a decent bit of control, so if that's a little bit too much for you, you test this out and you're like, okay, I feel like I could be a little bit more accurate elsewhere. Switching over to something like the Lockman MK2 light stock would be my second alternative there. Still getting some good movement speed, it's just not as crazy as the no stock would be. You could also get some decent stuff out of the factory stock too, for what it's worth, so maybe mess around with that if you need, but in terms of a fun SMG setup, I'm really enjoying this one right now. Loadout number 3 is my first sniper loadout of a couple of ones that we'll feature here on the channel today. The KATT, and I pair this with, of course, the MCW conversion, the best sniper support in the game, obviously. As far as the KATT goes, this setup has not changed in some time. We're still going for the Nightfall suppressor muzzle on here, so this will help out that velocity. That's really all we care about there. Zang 34 barrel, better velocity as well. High velocity ammo for better velocity, I know, crazy. I also go for the tactical pad stock for a faster ADS, and then just behind the face cam, I've got the quick bolt as well. That way I can just get my shots off faster back to back to back, so that's nice and snappy. I can get those quick cleanups or that secondary shot to knock an enemy down. And then paired with the MCW conversion, you've got all ranges covered. This thing's TTK in the close range is absolutely nuts. Here I'm going for the Spirit Fire Suppressor, keeps me off the radar, extends that range, velocity, and control there. We got the DR6 hand stop just to keep things snappy. It's pretty easy to use, especially in the sniper support ranges. So this, I just feel like, adds in some nice versatility to the setup. The 40 round extended mag is our max here with the conversion kit on there. So it is what it is. It works. It could be better. Then I also go for the reflector sight, that nice little ELO sight. If you like a NIDAR or a Slate or something else more, again, go for your comfortability here, but that's my choice there. I love how that looks and feels, and this thing absolutely fries. Next up, we've got another sniper loadout. This time it's with the Moors, and I pair this with the base striker because this thing for the mid-range and the long range is actually really good as an SMG, which means for sniper support, it fits the criteria there really nice. So this Moor setup will one-shot at any range if you are getting a headshot. Please don't test this in the firing range. See that it doesn't one-shot and then say, hey, wait, they stealth nerfed the Moors. Firing range is not accurate. I promise you this one-shot headshots in game unless you're playing ranked. So I got the ton heavy barrel, extends that velocity out some. Anti-material slug extends it with the damage there, so you can one-shot headshot at any range. It does hurt the velo, so that's a bit of a bummer now. Razor Hawk laser sight, faster ADS there. Super light 90 stock, faster ADS. Then again, I do go for the quick bolt on there for that faster firing speed after you are chambering or reloading or doing anything there. So just gets those shots off faster back to back to back. And then we got the buffed striker for the mid-range and the long range. Kind of long range obviously for SMGs is different than long range for a rifle, but for sniper support this works really good. Zem 35 compensator, we're at a 621 velo even with this on there, so that's really consistent. That's fine for the mid-range. I also got the long barrel on here. This will end up extending that velocity out, so that obviously helps out a decent bit there. DR6 hand stop if you want that better mobility on here. That said, you could also mess around with some high grade on here too and extend that range and velo out even more. Kind of up to your preference there, mobility versus range. 48 round mag, 60 round drum. It really is no wrong answer. It's whatever you're the most comfortable with. 60 is obviously a little bit slower, but both work just fine. Then I got the MK2 light stock on here for the mid range. I don't need a ton of mobility benefits. No stock would make the control a little bit too obnoxious for sniper support, so I think this is a nice balance there. But yeah, overall this thing is feeling really good post update. We got a nice LMG SMG combo here. The DG, which caught some buffs, really competitive in that LMG category, and the Wasp 9, which is also a contender for the best SMG in the game. So DG, this setup is super low recoil and it hits. It's got a great TTK. Spirit Fire Suppressor, pretty standard for the mid to long range. Bruen heavy support, better horizontal control, but also better firing aim stability and idle sway, so just makes it way more predictable and easy to use. We got the Woody long barrel for better control, range, velocity, and idle sway as well. 2.5 times Eagle Eye. And then just for some versatility here, the rubber CQC butt plate speeds it up a little bit with some strafe, some general ADS. This thing's so easy that you don't really need more control on here. You could always throw on something like high grain, high velocity if you wanted to extend that range of velo somewhere. That's never a bad idea. Again, just sort of preference. You can mess around and see what works the best for you. And then for the Wasp 9, this thing kills so quick up close. Also is even more snappy and aggressive now post update because they did actually buff the sprint to fire. So I got Zem 35 on here. DR6 hand stop, pretty standard. I do go for the light barrel. Speeds me up a little bit more with my ADS speed and sprint to fire. 50 round extended mag. And then I don't love the irons here. They're just really bulky and kind of obnoxious. So I go for an ELO sight personally, and I'm pretty accurate with that. So obviously, if you're more accurate with A versus B, you want to be using A. By the way, as we are breaking down all the setups here today, if you are new to the channel or you simply have not subscribed yet, every single day, I got you covered with news, updates, patch notes, meta breakdowns. So if you never want to miss a video, you want to make sure you always got that need to know info, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy the video or if you find it helpful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. Much love to everyone who takes the time to do so. Next up, we got another LMG and SMG combo, but it's the BP50 conversion kit. This thing's TTK in the close range is nuts if you're hitting upper body shots. And the Holger LMG, again, very easy to use, super low recoil, and really competitive TTK over range. So gonna be a pretty similar setup here to the DG. We got Spirit Fire Suppressor, Bruen heavy underbarrel, Holger factory barrel, which is better range, velocity, and control. I also got the 2.5 times here as well. And then I go for the Ascent Lord stock just for some added control here. General recoil across the board, but then also idle sway and firing aim stability to make things a little bit easier as well. So really straightforward, but also really reliable primary here. And then the BP50 conversion, you're super limited when you put on the Revenger kit in terms of attachments. So I go for the Trust 4 grip tape, helps out with some control, hurts your idle sway, but we're using this in like 15 meters and closer, so that's not a huge deal. I do go for high grain to extend that faster TTK range out a little bit more. The Kimura laser sight for a better ADS and sprint to fire speed, then Zem 35 compensator yet again. So this thing is definitely a unique feeling close range option, but it works. Now another sniper loadout here. This time I've got the Stalker. Obviously can only one shot in its first damage range, so we just try and have that be a decent range. And I pair this with the new Battle 27. Always want to include the new weapons in these top 10 so you guys have good loadouts for them. The more I've played with this, the more I feel like I'm the most comfortable with this in the mid range. It's not a crazy standout. You know, it works well for what it is there. So as far as the Stalker setup goes here, really all we care about is that effective damage range and our ADS speed. So just balancing those two out nicely. The Stoic suppressed barrel keeps me off the map and extends that effective damage range. The high grain rounds are going to extend that damage range and the velocity as well. Don't love the base scope here. It's a little bit too zoomed in for me, so I go for the 6.6 times. No stock will help speed up that ADS speed, obviously. Then I do go for the light bolt here, again, just behind the face cam, so I can get those shots off faster, back to back, just like over on our other two meta snipers. So this works well, but keep in mind, like with this build, you can only one shot within whatever that effective damage range is. So this is 70 meter one shot headshots. Then pairing this with the Battle 27, this is a nice setup that's versatile enough to play the mid range and be a bit more aggressive. Zem 35 compensator, 839 velo with this on is not bad at all. DR6 hand stop to keep things nice and aggressive. Crown H3 barrel will extend that range and that velo out some, makes it a little bit more versatile with some nice movement benefits as well. 60 round extended mag, very basic. Then I like the Ardent tack stock for some better control. Not really getting any major drawbacks in terms of movement there, so it's actually some solid pros for very minimal cons there. It works nice as a sniper support. Hey everyone, wanted to take a quick second to shout out my friends over at G Fuel. If you were looking to drop into some games energized and focused, look no further than G Fuel. They got you covered for pretty much everything, honestly. They got the hydration formula tubs, the standard energy tubs, they've got the cans, and best of all, if you want to get anything at all from the G Fuel site, you can throw in code IMMORTAL and get a nice little discount at checkout. And who knows, maybe the more the code gets used, the better chance of our Shaker Cup maybe one day returning. But yeah, if you want to check anything out, the link will be down in the description below. Now flipping back to another LMG SMG setup here, we've got the Bruen, which is still very solid for a mid to long range option here. They did nerf the close range with Season 3 Reloaded. I paired this with the Swarm. There's a lot of SMGs. In general, it's very competitive with the Wasp, the Striker 9, the HMR. The Rival got buffs, but it wasn't really anything too crazy beforehand. AMR 9's not really great for close range. Ram 9 is decent, but again, not like any major standout. The Horus's TTK is kind of mid, so the Swarm's not a bad option. It'll outgun some, lose to others. It's sort of that middle ground there. For the Bruen setup, going for Spirit Fire Suppressor per usual, Bruen heavy support. I go for the Horizon barrel in most cases now, just for the better velo and better control there. 60 round mag makes it a little bit more aggressive, and AR LMG feeling like similar to Warzone 1. 2.5 times Eagle Eye. Very straightforward, very basic setup here. Then the Swarm setup. Jack BFB is one that I've kind of messed around with back and forth. I see a lot of questions about this. For most situations, I just don't find it necessary anymore. While yes, that control is fantastic on a weapon like the Swarm that has a lot of recoil, but the cons here of the velo, which isn't super important close range, but it's noticeable. The ADS penalties, the sprint to fire penalties, not as worth it when you can just use the Zem 35 and still get decent control out of here, and you're still gonna be way faster, right? Reckless 90 long barrel extends that effective damage range out some so that we got that quick TTK. DR6 hand stop, 100 round drum, Night Model 2023. Not a fan of the irons here yet again, so this works nicely for that. But yeah, Swarm is still holding its own nicely. Now really, we only are focused on the primary here because we're using the MW2 RAPP, which has a crazy TTK. I pair this with the same Wasp 9 setup that we covered earlier, so no need to rehash that. But as far as the RAPP setup goes here, I am going for the Cassis break initially. We got a 966 velo, so we don't necessarily need Spirit Fire. If you want to use that to stay off the map, go for it. I find myself to be way more accurate with this though, obviously attacking that horizontal control. Bruen heavy support, doing more of the same, plus added firing game stability and idle sway. The high grain rounds, better range, better velocity. 100 round mag, the reload on this thing is bad. So if I don't have to do it as often, I'm gonna go for the extended mag and do it less often. And then 2.5 times Eagle Eye on here yet again. This thing for an MW2 gun is probably one of the better options that we've got right now. And then for our last one here, sort of my experimental loadout with the Holger 5.56, also using the same Striker 9 setup that we covered at the start of the video too. But for the Holger here, it is a really easy rifle and its TTK is pretty competitive. You're just super limited with your ammo. 40 rounds is not a ton. 50, 60, it'd be fine, but 40, you are somewhat limited. Luckily, you're so accurate with this thing, and especially with this setup, we got the angled underbarrel here. You could even upgrade to Bruen heavy if you wanted to, but I feel like this works just fine with how easy this weapon is to use. That plus Spirit Fire is adding in some control. Crowd 6 match adds in some control. You're going to be a laser beam, so you're going to have really good accuracy, and you can make do with those 40 rounds. Lastly, I like the glassless optic on here. It works well for the mid to long range. 2.5 times would work well too for what it's worth, but easy to use, decent TTK. Really, the only drawback here is that ammo capacity, but for the most part, it holds its own nicely. And that being said, those are 10 of the best loadouts you can be running right now within Warzone. If you guys enjoyed the video or if you found it helpful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you later. Peace out.